it seemed like this day might never come, but on Monday, former acting Attorney General Sally Yates finally testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee. Here's an abbreviated timeline just to get you caught up on this whole story. Michael Flynn began advising the Trump campaign back in February of 2016. In October, the Obama White House confirmed that they were aware of Russian meddling in the election. Shortly after the election, Flynn accepted then President-elect Trump's offer to be his national security advisor. A month later, in December, Flynn spoke on the phone with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak about recent sanctions against Russia. Now, the next month, Vice President Mike Pence appeared on Face the Nation and defended Flynn, saying that Flynn didn't discuss Russian sanctions with Kislyak. Just over a week later, Acting Attorney General Sally Yates told White House counsel Don McGahn that Flynn had lied to the vice president about his phone call. And on January 30th, Yates was fired by President Trump for not defending his first travel ban executive order. Yahoo News chief investigative correspondent Michael Isikoff joins me now. Michael, thanks so much for coming in.
Good to be with you.
So, to your mind, what was the biggest piece of news out of the grilling of Sally Yates at that hearing?
You know, look, hearings like this are in part theater, and when there are moments that will stick in the public memory, they break through, and that becomes something that is significant in and of itself. And there were several such moments today. Probably the one that struck me the most was when Sally Yates described her second meeting with White House counsel Don McGahn. She has just raised these concerns that Flynn has lied to the public, lied to other White House officials, such as Mike Pence, and that this was compromising. And what does Don McGahn say? What is it to the Department of Justice if one White House official lies to another? That is such a remarkable comment. I think it will be etched in public memory in the same way that what did the president know and when did he know it? It was during Watergate. It was a remarkable comment and almost cries out for explanations and testimony from Don McGahn.
Right.
What are you saying? It's okay for you all to be lying to each other?
Right. And I thought, you know, Al Franken really brought it home, you know, a couple of hours into this hearing when he said, this is not a complicated concept. Why, you know, I understand it perfectly sitting here. Why was it so confusing to the chief White House counsel that the national security advisor might be vulnerable to blackmail and that might be a problem for the White House? Yeah,
of course. But yeah, and McGahn's comment almost speaks to a cavalier attitude, a dismissive attitude that may say a lot in and of itself.
And suspicion to, you know, some career officials that were
sure.
You know,
look, from the Trump White House's point of view, these are a bunch of Obama holdovers that are trying to jam them, and you know they are giving them the back of the hand. You know, that said, there were several other moments that I think are worth noting. First of all, the framing of the issue of the timing of the warning to McGahn on January 26th, and it takes 18 days for the White House to fire Flynn, even after they've been notified.
Right.
He lied to the vice president. Sheldon Whitehouse called that the 18-minute gap, again, invoking Watergate. We were focused on an, 18-day gap. We were focused during Watergate on an 18-minute gap in the White House tapes. There's an 18-minute gap, 18-day gap that needs to be explained here, including the fact that after that warning, remember, Flynn is participating in the president's phone call with Vladimir Putin. So he's just lied to the White House, lied about his contacts with the Russian ambassador, and he's participating in a phone call with the Russian president.
And so what do you think those 18 days are about? Because it could be a few things, right? It could be just the president is stubborn. He doesn't want anyone telling him who he should or shouldn't have on his staff. Number two, that everyone knew that Flynn was talking to the Russian ambassador and they were fine with it, or number three, they just didn't trust the information that they were getting from a
combination of all of the above. One of the biggest issues, perhaps the biggest, that we don't know the answer to is when Flynn was having these conversations with the Russian ambassador, basically telling him, don't worry about what the sitting president of the United States has just done, i.e. sanctioning Russia over its hacking of the election. We'll revisit that when you take office. Was that authorized by President Trump himself? Did he know what Flynn was saying to the Russian ambassador? Did Flynn brief him about his conversations with the Russian ambassador? But let me mention something else that I think, was also really big news, if not bigger, that came out. Dianne Feinstein asked Clapper, James Clapper, the former director of national intelligence, about a report in the Guardian newspaper, the British newspaper, that British intelligence had warned the U.S. intelligence about suspicious contacts between Trump advisors and the Kremlin as early as late 2015, and that there were other reports from foreign European intelligence agencies to the same effect. Is that accurate? Feinstein asked Clapper, and he said, yes, it is accurate, but I can't discuss the details because they are quite sensitive. Now, that was a stunner for me, because that's the first public confirmation we have that there were official warnings about contacts between people in the Trump camp and the Kremlin. We don't know what those contacts were. We don't know the nature of them, how reliable U.S. intelligence considered them. But the fact that Clapper described them as quite sensitive raises a whole new host of questions that I think people are going to want the answers to.
Right, and I know we're not supposed to read anything into when, these folks testifying say, well, I can't discuss that, it's classified. But there were a lot of things that they couldn't discuss, which indicates that there are ongoing investigations that have been going on for some time into, various Trump associates and Russian officials.
Right. Look, I mean, there are multiple investigations. The FBI has a counterintelligence investigation. The House and Senate Intelligence Committees have investigations. This Judiciary Subcommittee has its own investigation and seems to be, breaking out from the Senate Intel Committee, which, God knows what they're doing and where they are. But I think the bottom line is, as much as the Trump White House would like this issue to go away, today's hearing makes that far less likely to happen. If anything, it ratchets up the pressure, and it guarantees we're going to be talking about this for some time to come. And
Senate Democrats pushing for another commission, an independent commission, in addition to all those investigations that you just mentioned. Michael Isikoff of Yahoo, thank you so much for coming by.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.